everyone, and welcome to my favourite disabled authors and characters video. July marks Disability Pride Month, so today I wanted to shout out some of my favourite disabled authors and some of my favourite disabled characters as well, because you can never have too much representation, and good representation at that. So let's get into the list. I'm going to start with the autistic authors because it turns out I actually had quite a few of them on my list. I did not realise I did. I thought I only had maybe one or two, but I've actually got several. So there's no better place to start than there, and there's also no better place to start this list than with Elle McNicoll, because Elle McNicoll is one of my favourite authors of all time. I absolutely love her work. She currently writes middle grade. She's also releasing a YA at the end of the year, and each time her books are featuring neurodivergent characters, and they are all own voices. Specifically, they are own voices for the autism rep in Some Like It Cold, her YA, as well as A Kind of Spark, Keedy, and then also Show Us Who You Are. All of them are autistic rep, and then Like a Curse and Like a Charm are about dyspraxia instead, and each of her books are absolutely wonderful to read. They feel so sort of filled with love and heart and all of this kind of thing. She's the only author to date who makes me tear up when I'm reading, which really doesn't happen all that often with me, and I absolutely love her work. I deeply relate to all of her characters in some way, being autistic and dyspraxic myself, and I just absolutely love her work. They are all so inclusive and so wonderful. I cannot recommend her enough if you are looking for own voices, middle grade and YA. I'm also going to mention Chuck Tingle specifically with Camp Damascus, because this is own voices for the autism rep as well. Our main character of Rose is autistic, and while this book did not work for me as well as I wanted it to, if you are looking for a horror book that deals with religious trauma and cults and conversion camps and all of this kind of thing through the eyes of an autistic main character that is own voices, you cannot go wrong with Camp Damascus. It will deliver all of that and more throughout this book, so if you are looking for anything like that, definitely check this out. If you're more of like a fan of like vampires and alternative takes on vampires, I would definitely recommend The Book Eaters by Sun Yi Dean, because while this doesn't have an autistic main character in it, it's still written by an autistic author, and it is so good. I love how this worked around the idea of vampires, and it really reinvented the idea of vampires, where they are not drinking blood or anything else. They are essentially drinking ink and eating books to gain knowledge, this kind of thing. I loved what it had to say about the patriarchy and trying to fight the patriarchy, and talking about like how far a mother will go to protect their child, all of this kind of thing. Absolutely brilliant. Definitely recommend it if you're looking for an alternative take on vampires. There is also Shauna Maguire, who quite frankly has a book for nearly anybody, and I swear by this because she has written through so many different genres and so many different subgenres and so many different books. There is something for everybody. If you are looking for retellings in a more adult sense, there's the Indexing series. If you're looking for portal fantasy that's slightly more whimsical, she's got the Wayward Children series. If you're looking for mind screw sci-fi fantasy, alchemical, wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey, metaphysical stuff that will definitely screw with your head and possibly give you a headache by the end of it trying to figure out what's just happened, you've got the Middle Game series. If you're looking for, say, fae mixed with murder mystery, detective stuff, you've got the Toby Day series. If you're looking for more, say, magical creatures type stuff, you've got the Encrypted series, which I admittedly haven't started yet. It's on my list though. She's got something for basically everybody, and that's without mentioning her pen name Myra Grant, where she does a whole load of horror books, and her work is always top notch. She's releasing at least 2 books a year. I don't know how she does it, quite frankly, but each time it is always absolutely top tier brilliant. There is something for everybody in all of her books. She also explores mental health issues and disability in some of her work as well. Like in Middle Game, she explores depression. There is also an autistic character and a blind character, if I remember rightly, in Into the Drowning Deep. There is also a lot of LGBTQI plus representation throughout her books. So there is a trans character in Indexing. There is also a trans character as well in Wayward Children, as well as an asexual character, which I deeply appreciated, being asexual myself. And she's just got so many different types of diversity throughout her books. There is something for everyone with her as well, and I cannot recommend her enough. I love Shauna Maguire so much. Then the final autistic author I have to mention is Kaya Sunderby, who does the Xandri series. This is a far-flung future sci-fi type thing where we have cured disability, but Xandri, our main character, is autistic, and we're following her as she's doing her job where she's kind of like a liaison between different planets and things like this during like various different political things and all of this kind of thing, and it is wonderful. I love this series so much. It very much was one of the first Own Voices autistic things I ever read. I deeply related to Xandri on so many levels in how she goes about her day, how she views things, all of this kind of thing. I love its exploration as well of like ableism and things, and how her entire crew essentially love her and accept her exactly as she is. They don't try to change her or anything else. It is wonderful in that sense. There is also polyamory representation in here as well, along with a whole load of other representation on top of that as well, if you're looking for a queer sci-fi as well that's also indie published. It is overall fantastic. I cannot recommend it enough. I love this series. Outside of autistic authors, I also want to mention Leigh Bardugo, specifically with her writing of Kaz Brekker, because Kaz Brekker is a cane user and was actually inspired by Leigh Bardugo's own cane use when she was writing the book. And I just want to mention him because I couldn't mention disabled characters without mentioning him, because he's Kaz Brekker. He's one of my all-time favourite book characters ever, and this book is one of my also one of my absolute all-time favourites as well. It is so good, so much fun if you love fantasy, if you love heists, if you love found family, if you love queer relationships as well, because there are a few queer characters throughout the series, and everything else. You cannot go wrong with Six Odd Crows and Leigh Bardugo. Outside of Own Voices, I also want to quickly mention the Christmasaurus as well, because William Trundle, our main character, is a wheelchair user, as you can see from the illustration, if I can get it at the right angle. There we go. He is a full-time wheelchair user because he had a car accident when he was younger, and it's left him as a full-time wheelchair user. And while Tom, who is the writer of this book, is not a wheelchair user by any means, he did consult with a charity called WizKids, who I'll leave the link to down below, who work directly with young people who are wheelchair users. Also, when they did the Christmasaurus live show, when they adapted it into a stage play musical thing, they also used young boys who were also wheelchair users to play William Trundle. And then on top of that as well, when they did the music video for the song Afraid of Heights, they also had the main character of that being a young girl who is a young wheelchair user as well. So there were wheelchair users consulted throughout making this book, and I just wanted to mention it as well because I really love this book and I couldn't resist. And then the final one I want to mention quickly is Matt Fraction's Hawkeye run, because this explores Clint being deaf, and while this has not been continued throughout a lot of comics, I really wish it did, because this was done really well, and a lot of people have praised this for its deaf representation, because the whole way through this, Clint is wearing a hearing aid and he is signing to people, and that is not something that is swept under the rug at certain points or anything. It is actually explored throughout here that Clint is deaf, he does need a hearing aid, and he is signing to people, and it is so good. I love the fact that it actually zoomed in certain panels to look at the people's hands and the way they move when they're signing, and like spelling things out when they're signing, all of this kind of thing. It is absolutely fantastic. It also works as well as the inspiration for the Hawkeye TV show that came out a few years ago, so if you really enjoyed that, definitely check this out, because it is the main inspiration behind it, and it's just generally a really good comic. I really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend it if you are a Hawkeye fan or a Marvel fan in general. And that is the end of my favourite disabled authors and main characters. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below, tell me your favourite disabled author, I'd love to know. Or if you don't have that much time, leave me a emoji that represents a mobility aid down below to let me know that you were here. I'll also leave a link as well down below to all of my social media if you want to check it out, including to the Comic Book Sanctum, which is my website dedicated to Marvel Comics, which has got a ton of stuff on there about Clint, and then also Matt Fraction's Hawkeye run as well if you want to check that out, as well as a link as well down below to my Bookish Etsy store if you want to treat yourself to something bookish today. Or if you just want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. Until next time everyone, bye!